Hey everybody, we are live. Apologize for being a little bit late, but we're just gonna get a little bit straight up into it. So in this live, we're gonna talk about what are STIGs, how do you review STIGs, and how to basically go through STIGs overall. So why they're important in the RMF process, things like that. So, for anybody that came in, it was supposed to start at 5. Again, we're a little bit late, so we better get started in a few. I'm just going to allow a couple more minutes for people to come in. If you're trying to watch, so yeah, we're a little late, running a little bit late. I see some in the comments. Are we early? 5:22. But yeah, that's my apologies. But we're gonna go straight into it. If you have any questions, concerns, if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn. Just make sure you're responding. Make sure you come back and give me feedback. Just let me know if you're on the stream. So we're going to start in a couple minutes. So the purpose of this live is to kind of break down what are STIGs, how do you download them, just things like that to kind of go over and into it. So, and if you're on live, just make sure you say something, respond back, let me know what you're thinking, and we're going to go straight into it. So yeah, we're going to go straight into it. So what are STIGs? That's the first thing. STIGs are security technical implementation guides. You can find this on Cyber Exchange. Anybody can access them. Oh, can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, if anybody's on the live, just let me know if you can hear me, because I'm not sure if you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me? Okay, just making sure. Okay, just making sure. So for anybody that just came on again, I'm apologize for coming late. This is a kind of we're going to go through on what STIGs are. We're going to show you how to download them, how to access them, and go through STIGs yourself. That's the whole purpose, to kind of go through that. So that's what we're going to go straight into. So right now, we're just going to go over some slides on what are STIGs. And then after that, we're going to go on Cyber Exchange. Just download the STIGs and look at it. Okay? And that's some of the things you're going to be doing as an ISSO or in this arm as well. So for the first one, okay, that's good. Ariana, yes, got you. So what are STIGs? Okay, STIGs are security technical implementation guides, aka STIG. That's what STIGs stand for. It's an abbreviation. When people work in the cybersecurity space, period, they use a lot of abbreviations, but that's what it is. There's standards that are configured and published by DISA. The standards, we're going to go on and what they do, but that's kind of standards that are published for each OS and systems that are given by DISA, and they're the people that take care of that, okay? So the purpose of STIGs in general is to harden systems. You're hardening systems to make sure they follow particular guidelines so an outside actor cannot hack that system, But again, you can't always get all of them, but it makes sure it takes care of some of the main vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. So you can always check these out on Cyber Exchange, things like that. And we're going to go into it later. So with the coverage, it covers different applications like web browsers, SQL, SharePoint, operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac OS, network, firewall, switches, routers, cloud like Azure, AWS, Kubernetes STIGs. There's a lot of STIGs. They format in XML, they have PDF guides, and they have SRGs. So when we go into a little bit later, you'll see what I'm talking about. But those are the STIGs, and this is where you can find them at. So those are kind of the main things that kind of break down what STIGs are, period. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, why STIGs matter in the DoD? So they matter a lot because STIGs in general are kind of like the standards, right? It's standards that everything can go off of. It's like DISA creates them. That's the standard. So it's the standard across the entire DoD process. So that's why they're important to go off of. That's why people use them. It reduces different vulnerabilities, different weak things that can go on with your system, and it kind of provides all of that. For STIGs, for people that work in the space, STIGs you're going to be doing. You need this during the ATO process. So STIGs are something you send up for your package to make sure that your system has less vulnerabilities. Make sure you're following everything for your system. So without STIGs properly being taken care of, especially the high vulnerabilities, it can lower the chances of you getting an ATO extension or ATO in general if you're trying to get one. So that's kind of the main things with STIGs. Also, too, it kind of helps save time with assessments, audits, things like that. So if you have them already, they can just go straight through those. And it makes it easier because if you don't have STIGs, you don't have a certain standard to go off of when you're doing that or reviewing a system. Does that make sense to everybody? And if you're still in the chat, just give me a like, say something, say how you doing, Chris. Say something to make sure I know you're there. Make sure everybody's there. So that's what STIGs are. Okay, so the steps of the RMF process. This is kind of where some of the STIGs can apply during the RMF process, right? So STIGs can be used kind of mainly through the whole thing, but they mainly apply in the implement phase, the assess phase, the authorize phase, and the monitoring phase. That's where STIGs are going to be used the most for those that's trying to track it in the RMF process. So that's kind of all the phases that STIGs are used in general. Okay. And you can always check the NIST 800-171 to kind of verify the RMF process. So that's kind of where it's used. Okay. Okay. Where STIGs, again, we just talked about it, fits in step 4. It fits in step 5 and step 7, and also the authorized phase. I mashed it up a little bit. But with STIGs, engineers apply STIGs and checklists to make sure that you're hardening the system. That's an implementation. So you're making sure they're properly implemented. That's where STIGs are used. STIGs are also used in step 5, where you assess. The SCAR can assess. SCAs can assess. You can assess. They're used in that phase. The authorized phase, when you getting them processed for ATO or extension, that's for the authorized phase. For the step 7 monitor, you're continuously monitoring STIGs over and over again, continuously. So that's kind of where it all fits in. Does that make sense for everybody? Does that make sense? It makes sense for the ATO process. So that's kind of where we at with that. So the lifestyle of a STIG in an RMF process. You download it from Cyber Exchange, like what we talked about. You're going to download it. We're going to go over. So make sure you hang on. We're going to go over that. You apply the correct configurations. So for different offices, the system engineers, whatever you call them, sometimes even ISSOs apply the STIGs. They're the people that fixed all the configurations. They're the people that go into it. Those are the people that handle STIGs and kind of make sure they harden the system. Also, with scanning and validating compliance orientation manuals, the same thing. You can use a SCAP tool to kind of process this a little bit quicker. Also, too, you're documenting the findings to see if they're compliant, non-compliant, and applicable. That's another phase, your documentation. One of the last phases is you upload it to a system that tracks your RMF process. A lot of people in the DoD use eMASS. You upload it, you start tracking them with eMASS, and then also you create a plan of action and milestone, which is a POA&M. And then the last thing is with STIGs, the new ones are always released every quarter. So you always have to check every quarter to see if there's new versions of STIGs, because with the STIGs, you're supposed to send it up to make sure they're done newer. There's always a new STIG. So that's what you're going to constantly doing over and over and over again. It's a constant lifestyle, but this is the main lifestyle of a STIG in general. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example of what a STIG is. It could be a Windows Server STIG requirement, right? One of the vulnerabilities can say, hey, ensure password length is at 14 characters. That's what it can tell you to do, right? So you can implement it to make sure it configured to that. That's what personal engineer would do. They will go into that STIG and they'll make sure it's configured properly. Then you can do a scan to make sure it's checked. If it fails, and if the STIG check fails in general, you create a POA&M, and then you create mitigation steps. And then you're doing it continuously every quarter to make sure that it's being done. So that's kind of the life cycle of a STIG, and that's a STIG in action. It's a constant progress. It's not the same thing over and over, but this is the process of a STIG in general. Okay. So make sure you check that out, okay? Common STIG challenges. There's a lot of STIGs. Some programs can have 100 STIGs. And when you get 100 STIGs, if you get 100 STIGs, you're going to have to make sure that all of those STIGs are updated properly. You can't do it on your own. You got to rely on your team, right? So that's going to be a big issue in its own, just maintaining the STIGs, because it's hard to get a process in place. It's hard to make sure it's configured properly, things like that. So that's why STIGs can be an issue. Mission impact, some STIGs can conflict with operational needs. Sometimes if it's not configured properly, it can cause a system to break. Or some of the STIG vulnerabilities, if you fix them, they can break a system. So that's a big issue. Another thing is false positives. Sometimes when you use automated tools with STIGs, it can misread configurations. Sometimes you can get the wrong STIGs because, sometimes they're not done properly. You can get a Windows STIG, but there's different Windows servers. And sometimes they can just be marked all the same, but they're really not marked all the same. So documenting all of this stuff, it can be an issue sometimes, because you got to constantly make sure you're checking eMASS, updating, working with engineers, and make sure everything is being tracked properly. Sometimes as an ISSO, if you're working manually, it can be a big issue. It's hard to do that. It's hard to track it manually. So that's another issue with STIGs. And again, it's hard to tailor them to each system. Some systems can have 100 people, some can't. So that's kind of some of the issues that go along with having STIGs. Does anybody have any questions on that? Is everybody tracking? If you're in the chat, just make sure you say something. Say, hey, what's up? You there? Just to make sure you're there. But those are some of the kind of issues you deal with STIGs. So the best practice with working with STIGs, make sure you always check the STIG release. Make sure you're always up to date with the STIG release, right? Again, they update every quarter. If you don't know what the quarters is, make sure you just do a quick Google search or ChatGPT, what quarter. Make sure you put on your calendar. Integrate early. Apply STIGs during the build, not after it's deployed. You should be doing it before the build. After it's deployed, what's the term? When it's deployed? I forgot the term. It'll come back to me at some point. Automate, try to see if you can automate a lot of this if possible. A lot of teams don't automate it. Make sure you're always talking to everybody about what's going on, your engineers, everybody. So just make sure you're automating the process. Track all the risk acceptance and make sure you're checking out every POA&M and document every justification just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. So that's kind of the best practice for working with POA&Ms. Okay, so as an ISSO, your job with working with POA&Ms is to coordinate with the engineers, admins, assessors, record documents and status and evidence in eMASS, risk manager, create POA&Ms and for non-compliant partial results, You're the main communicator. You're making sure the package is being prepared, and you're talking to the SCAR or security control assessors. And you're an advisor. You guide the system to the priorities. Sometimes we're working with engineers, they don't know the priorities. So just for everybody, just the key takeaways so you know, STIGs are mandatory baselines for the DoD. Yeah, they align heavily with steps 4 through 5 with the RMF process that we just went over, and it helps secure a successful ATO. And ISSO's engineers and AOs rely on STIGs to make the risk-based decisions. Without STIGs, it's hard to make a risk-based decision. And continuous STIG compliance is a part of the ongoing authorization. So no matter what, you're going to keep doing this process over and over and over again. It's a process that you're going to always do. So STIGs, that's kind of STIGs in a nutshell for everybody. What's your thoughts on that before we go into actually showing you how to download a STIG? Oh, thank you, Braxton May Nicholas. Good stuff, Chris. Appreciate you. This is over a lot of years of doing this job over and over again. So this is the process that you're going to constantly go over. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly transition. What we're going to start doing is showing you actually how to download STIGs and how to download STIG Viewer. So we're going to do this from scratch. I'm going to pull up a screen. So just give me a few minutes and we're going to do this from scratch. Okay, so I'm about to share my screen. And if anybody have any comments or concerns, let me know. We're going to be on for a while. Okay, so now we're going to go over it. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so everybody's on my screen. So we're going to go to Google. We're going to type in Cyber Exchange. Anybody can access Cyber Exchange, right? So we're going to go to Cyber Exchange. And we're going to look up STIG Viewer. Actually, I'm going to just type in STIG Viewer. And again, let me fix something real quick. Okay, I'm about to, give me 1 second. I'm about to represent everything again. Okay, so we're going to go back on here. We're going to go to STIG Viewer. Sorry. Cyber Exchange, and we're going to type in STIG Viewer. Okay, so we're going to need to download STIG Viewer, right? So for my computer, the only way I can download STIG Viewer is STIG Viewer Windows 60, Win64. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create new folder. I'm going to say STIG Viewer 3.5. So just so I can know what it is. Actually, I'm going to put the date too. Because when you download it, you're going to have to make sure that is there. Make sure you have a folder to go to. And I'm just going to put the date so I know what's going on with it. Okay. So after I download it, I'm going to go here to STIG Viewer Windows 64 5. Windows 60, whatever. I'm sorry, it's updated. It's 3.6. The STIG Viewer 3.6. So I'm going to update that. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. I'm going to update it to STIG Viewer 6.0. That's what it is. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to, again, I already downloaded it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to downloads. I'm going to take it from here. Okay, so I'm gonna take it. It's a zip file. So you see why I had another file? So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to extract all. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extract it all, and I'm gonna go to STIG viewer for this date I just created. And I put it there so I can know which one it is. Okay, STIG viewer 6.0. You know what I'm doing? I'm gonna select the folder and I'm gonna extract all. Okay. So when you look, this is all that's going to be in it. The thing that you're going to download is STIG Viewer 3. So on here, you're going to click more info and you're going to say run anyway. Okay, so STIG Viewer 3.6 is populating, right? So I'm gonna click open. Okay, so I need some STIGs now, right? So we got STIG Viewer. So now we need some STIGs. So I'm gonna just type in Apache STIGs, right? So I'm gonna take Apache STIGs, right? And I'm gonna go to I'm gonna type in STIGs. Let me see if it pops up. Let me go to SRGs. So I'm gonna go to document library. I'm gonna go type in Apache, right? So we see the newest STIG was produced 4.7 right here. We're gonna do Apache. Okay, so we're gonna do Apache. I'm gonna download this one. So like the same process, I'm gonna create another folder. I call it Apache STIGs. I'm gonna let it download, right? So we have it here. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take this, right? I'm gonna take that Apache STIG, replace. So we have it now. And then, I'm gonna just give it a date so I can remember what folder I created, where I need to put it into. So the date I gave it is gonna be 10/21/2025, right? So I'm going to extract this. I'm gonna go to that Apache STIG I just created in desktop. You know what? I'm gonna extract it and put it in there. And again, anybody can do this. It's accessible to anybody. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to STIG viewer and I'm gonna click open. So I'm gonna go to desktop. I'm gonna go to this file I just created. I'm gonna look for this and I'm gonna open it. So look, guys, we have a STIG. We have a STIG, right? So we have a STIG. This is how STIGs are normally gonna look. This is how they normally gonna look. This is a blank STIG. Let me make sure. Let me check on one thing first. Okay, this is how a blank STIG is gonna look. So when an engineer goes into a STIG, right? They're gonna go into a STIG like this, and they're gonna look through it, and they're gonna go through their system, and they're gonna see what applies to what. So for this particular STIG, it only has category 2s and 3s, right? That's all I see. It has categories 2s and 3s. Category 1s is the highest issues. Category 2 is moderate. The category 3 is low. So what they will do is they'll say session management is the practice of protecting bulk of authorized. They will read all of this. They'll go to the check text. They'll put in a command to see if this is going on with their system, and they'll see if there's an issue. It'll say if the session model and user track model are not enabled or do not exist, this is a finding. So if it's a finding, what they'll do is Let me see real quick. Let me download another version of STIG Viewer. It's more simpler. STIG Viewer. This one's more simpler. Again, that STIG we download, we're gonna add here. This is a STIG Viewer 2.8. The one I just downloaded was the newer version, but they still all work the same. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go back to that one I created, and I go to STIG View. I go to the STIG I just downloaded. Dang it, it's not there. Let me see. Again, I did it the wrong way. When you want to import a blank STIG on here, you gotta import it as that, and that's how you do it. You got to go to File, and then you click Import when you want to import a blank STIG. And again, it's gonna look like this. An engineer will go through this discussion. They'll go through the check text. If it fails, then they'll mark it as, and I'll show you right now. Actually, you got to create. So on 2.18, you got to click Create Checklist. Okay. Once you create checklist, then you can kind of mark it as. So what they'll do, if it failed, they'll mark it as not a finding. If it's not applicable, they'll mark it as not applicable. If it's open, they'll mark it as open, and if it's not reviewed, it's not reviewed. As an ISSO, we're supposed to review everything that they do to make sure it's correct. Or if it's not a finding, it's a finding, so I'm gonna create a POA&M. So that's kind of what we do. Okay. So I created, so this is kind of example of what a STIG is, how to download it, how to upload it. That's kind of where it's at right now. You can download either the STIG Viewer 3 or STIG Viewer 4, or STIG Viewer 2.1. I prefer the older one because it's simpler, but either one is good. So I created a fake STIG. This STIG does not exist on any system. This is fake. It doesn't exist. So you click open a STIG. So this is an Apache server STIG that I made up. This doesn't exist. So again, this is what you would look for: not a finding, not a finding, not a finding, not a finding, not a finding. But sometimes what an engineer will do, they'll put this is failed because of this. The load, this causes a finding. So what are they talking about? The first thing I would do is go read it. Okay. So I'll go look at this, the fix text, and based on what they wrote, you would, as an ISSO, you would be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. So this doesn't make no sense. Okay. So if that doesn't make sense, you know what I would do? I would reply to the engineer and ask them, like, can you give me more details? And then I'll write it in the comment section below this. So it's a comment section. You can write, hey, can you give me more details? Can you update this? Can you make it sound better? Or sometimes you get on the call and then you can update it yourself. But that's kind of what you do as an ISSO in general. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a look real quick to see if I have any questions. But that's kind of the gist of STIGs. That's how you download. It's a very simple process. And you can use these as projects. If you're trying to get into the space, you trying to prove what you can do, just download it, explain the process, talk about it. This is ways to show that you're an expert in your field. Okay. So I'm gonna take a look at what everybody's talking about. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on like what STIGs are? How do you use them? Things like that. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. SRGs, they're kind of the same thing. What are SRGs? They're kind of what you upload into the STIG viewer. Or the CKL, I'm sorry, the CKL file is what you upload. Okay. So, yeah. So, anybody have any other things? Well, yeah. Before we kind of cut it. Okay. So I will tell everybody, if you enjoyed this type of training, make sure you check out RMF Academy. On RMF Academy, we talk about how to do the ISSO process, how to do the risk management. We go into depth like how we just talked about now, explaining STIGs, POA&Ms, testing controls, ATO process, things like that. So if you like this type of training, we have a cohort coming up in November 18th for 7 weeks. And we're going to go over all of the things that we just talked about in more detail and in more depth. So if you want to check it out, if you're trying to become an ISSO, if you're in IT, you have security clearance, or you just want to learn how to get into this process, check it out. We start November 18th, and we go way more in depth than what we're doing now. One-on-one coaching, everything. So thank you everybody for watching this live. And we're going to have them every week. Every week we're going to always do something. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have. So make sure you check it out. Check out RMF Academy, and we'll see you on the next live. Thank you, everybody.